rain delay, 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 radio, 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 rain delay, radio.
Ano may layan no lalamada tu kerja noli murli.
Rain delay, rain delay, rain delay, rain delay, rain delay, rain delay, rain delay.
And welcome to Rain Delay Radio. This is your producer and acting host, DeBard. Slander Bob sends his regards. He's taking a much-needed break. We hope you get better soon.
Yeah, so we do send our best to Slander Bob on that. We miss him. I'm your co-host, Randolph, and welcome to tonight's Rain Delay Radio, episode number 4 for June 4th, 2018. Be sure to go to streamlabs.com/Rain Delay Radio, and there you can support our stream. We love our listeners, and we love reading your super chats. Now let's get right into tonight's topics, and tonight's topic is actually going to start with the wildcard topic, which is about the Department of Homeland Security compiling a list of bloggers, journalists, and social media influencers. And right away, I knew that this had to be, included. I'll go ahead and start. Many were hoping that once Barack Obama was out of office, this is quoting from the website zerohedge.com, and we'll go ahead and put that in our YouTube so that people can read that. And, okay.
Yeah, add that.
There you go.
Add that to the chat.
Yeah, that's in our YouTube chat right now.
Good.
So, okay. Many were hoping that once Barack Obama was out of office, we would see less of this Big Brother surveillance nonsense, but instead, it seems to be getting even worse. In fact, the Department of Homeland Security has just announced that it intends to compile a comprehensive list of hundreds of thousands of journalists, editors, correspondents, social media influencers, bloggers, etc., and collect any information that could be relevant about them. So if you have a website, an important blog, or are just very active on social media, the Department of Homeland Security is going to put you on a list and will start collecting information about you. The DHS has already announced that it will hire a contractor to aid in monitoring media coverage, and they will definitely need plenty of help because it is going to be a very big job. As part of its media monitoring, the DHS seeks to track more than 290,000 global news sources, as well as social media in over 100 languages, including Arabic, Chinese, and Russian. For instance, translations into instant translation into English. The successful contracting company will have 24/7 access to a password-protected media influencer database, including journalists, editors, correspondents, social media influencers, bloggers, etc., in order to, quote, identify any and all media coverage related to the Department of Homeland Security or a particular event. Any and all coverage, as you might imagine, is quite broad and includes online, print, broadcast, cable, radio, trade and industry publications, local sources, national, international outlets, traditional news sources, and social media. And wow, what a story. Your comments on this, Sam?
Well, when I saw this story, when we were doing the show prep and vetting the stories, and I saw it, I was like, Zero Hedge article, what's this? And so then I start going down the rabbit hole, and sometimes you can find like a quack circle jerk where it's like the same blogs echo chambering each other. But
Right.
in this case, this led me to a Forbes article, which in turn led me to actual official government postings for these jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So right away I knew I have prima facie evidence that this article is at least as accurate as printed. we have to run with it, because it sounds like this might, oh no, when the government gets involved in speech, how do I put this? Impartiality has a habit of not being respected, because of the fact that government speech and personal speech have two different legal denotations, two different legal rule sets.
Right. Exactly. Freedom of speech only exists in public areas, after all.
Oh, freedom of speech exists within the confines of fighting words, heckler's veto. I mean, there are a whole bunch of things that might result in the government using its own speech to curtail a private citizen's speech in public.
Mm.
If they believe that the person might be harmed by bystanders because of the view, that's heckler's veto. And at that point, not only would the constabulary in the area have a responsibility to rush that guy off the stage, but they would then have to quell any subsequent riot.
Well, if, for example, let's say we were back home in Lexington, and we go to outside the courthouse, you know, or outside the farmer's market. Those are public events. Those are where, you know, you have right of free speech, as long as it's peaceful and nonviolent.
Yeah, you have the right to peaceably assemble and petition for grievance.
Right, exactly.
That
you also have the right to collect petitions as well. At those places.
Yeah, that carries under petition.
Right.
Just,
but freedom of speech is being, you know, something that, you know, companies like YouTube and companies like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all this other stuff, they don't look at it as freedom of speech. They look at it as you're a guest in their online house and you behave by our rules or we're kicking you out.
I'm thinking a lot of this has to do with Article 13.
Mm-hmm.
If you're familiar with the European goings-on, a lot of European vloggers and types have made a lot better videos explaining it. But generally, it does sound like, how do I put this? The whole entire block's TOS is changing.
Right.
Yeah, essentially, there are very strict limits, as opposed to every state in the union except New York pretty much going towards anti-slap. Like the EU is like driving the needle back hard towards pro-slap, because they have a different idea of human dignity in their legal codes than we do.
And slap, go ahead and explain to the audience what a slap lawsuit is.
That's an acronym for Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. It is a lawsuit specifically designed to gag criticism or commentary of one's public record, you know, essentially things that would not be gross invasion of privacy. Like if you leak somebody's, you know, if you peeping Tom and snap camera at someone while they're undressing, yeah, that's not protected. They can still sue you after the state gets done with you and sends your ass under the jail.
Oh,
but
yeah.
The main thing about these lawsuits, and a lot of people have been following Ozonian v. Herrera et al. Will have seen this, is that they make many cases for burden, but there's no cause of action, there's no remedy. They're just like, oh, and I assert that something happened at such and such date, and I assert that for whatever reason it results in a tort. But none of the things that they list are actual torts. None of the things that they list cause injury to a legal person. If you think that somebody's being too harsh in their criticism, you have every right to confront them about that in a peaceable manner.
Exactly. I think that also leads right into our primary topic, and that our first topic of the evening was going to be Islamophobia in the United Kingdom. And Islamophobia is the cultural fear that non-Islamic cultures have of people who are in Islam. But it's a very vague and loose definition that the Metropolitan Police Department in London has put out.
I want to interject just for a little bit. It's not a loose definition at all. This is the exact definition under UK code that the Muslim Brotherhood came up with when they invented the term. This has not been, this is not news per se. It's more news per quote. Like, it's not news that this happened, that somebody defined Islamophobia as criticism. It's news that the UK did it.
Oh, let me bring it up here because I want to read this out to you. Give me a second.
But the main thing about Islamophobia is that we're not looking at, you know, East Asians here, the majority of Muslims. We're not looking at Malaysians. We're not looking at Singaporeans. We're generally looking at a group of people from South Asia, West Asia, and Eastern Europe, especially Eastern Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's not so much that, you know, it's not bad if these people want to aspire to becoming a functioning and contributing member of society.
Go ahead and put up that card that we're referencing from the Metropolitan Police Department.
Okay,
and that way we can show our audience.
We need to give more context here.
Yeah, because they need to see this, and I'll read it out here.
Okay, let me see if I got that one in the can.
Right, it should be in show prep links.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me throw that one out. Did I put that one on the desktop yet?
I say.
Okay. If I put it on yet, there we go.
All right. I'll see it here in a second.
Whew, that's giant. I'm gonna have to scale this back quite a bit. Holy fuck. Hold on. This is a big boy.
We're gonna need a bigger stream.
Oh, that's not what I wanted.
That's the fun of doing it live, ladies. It's okay, we're gonna get there.
Just scale that down a bit, bring it up, and fade in. But to put a point on it, I figure I might as well take a turn reading one of these things.
Mm-hmm.
There are a number of terms that are used throughout this report, and this indicates that this is an extract of a governmental source that require a brief comment. Islamophobia and Islamophobic or anti-Muslim hate crime.
And I'll continue here. The authors are aware that there is a wide debate around the term Islamophobia. However, for the purposes of this report, the definition outlined in the Runnymede Trust's 1997 report, Islamophobia, a challenge for us all, will be used. This definition is widely accepted, including by the European Union Agency for Fundamental Rights, FRA, previously known as the Monitoring Center on Racism and Xenophobia. According to this definition, the 8 components of Islamophobia are: 1. Islam is seen as a monolithic bloc, static and unresponsive to change. 2. Islam is seen as separate and other. It does not have values in common with other cultures, is not affected by them, and does not influence them. 3. Islam is seen as inferior to the West. It is seen as barbaric, irrational, primitive, and sexist. 4. Islam is seen as violent, aggressive, threatening, supportive of terrorism, and engaged in a, quote, clash of civilizations. 5. Islam is seen as a political ideology and is used for political or military advantage. 6,
Hold on.
criticisms made of the West by Islam are rejected out of
Oh.
hand. 7, hostility towards Islam is
Hey,
used to
Randy.
justify. Yes.
Hold on. I just need to read this one out. Let me go to the Streamlabs. I just missed it.
Oh, we got a super chat?
We got a subscriber.
Wow.
But I just want to make sure that we get that out there as soon as possible. So we have
I
one
think that's
subscribers.
awesome. Yes.
So it looks like we have Freak Eating has subscribed. Thank you, Freak
Well,
Eating. Natarada.
Mr. Natarada, how are you doing? You are welcome to our Discord, and we'd love to have you as part of this here. And we'll go ahead and read out his chat.
Oh,
Or did he send a chat?
He just sent
He
a
just
subscription. It's okay. I just wanted to make sure that that was as important as a
That's
subscription.
awesome.
Audience loyalty.
Great. Hey
Yeah.
there, Nata. Hey there, Natter.
Okay.
Alrighty.
So
Yes.
we were at, let me check, item number, oh, it's,
I think we'll go ahead and continue it from 6 here. Bring it up again on my end.
oh yeah, it is at the midway through 5, I think. We can take it from
Midway
there.
through 5?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And, come on. Original. All right, here it comes again. Okay, yeah. 6 criticisms made of the West by Islam are rejected out of hand. 7, hostility towards Islam is used to justify discriminatory practices towards Muslims and exclusion of Muslims from mainstream society. 8, anti-Muslim hostility is seen as natural or normal. Islamophobic or anti-Muslim hate crime. Throughout this report, crimes and incidents targeted at Muslims have been variously referred to as Islamophobic incidents or crimes and anti-Muslim incidents or crimes. The terms are interchangeable. Islamophobic hate crime is the more commonly accepted term and is used by the Metropolitan Police Service in recording and referring to such incidents. However, the authors prefer to use the term anti-Muslim hate crime in recognition that these incidents are often targeted at the negative stereotype and misperception of Muslims that perpetrators hold rather than any fear or hatred of Islam per se. Well, that's quite a read. And let's go ahead and keep that card up because I want our audience to weigh in on this. Natter, if you want to join us in our Discord, let me go ahead and check our Discord again. Maybe. Okay. But yes, if you follow the link, where is our Discord? Oh, it's under show more. Oh yeah, no, it's actually above that. Yeah, be part of the fun, join our Discord. Okay, but yeah, this Islamophobia is taking into account anything that is critical of Islam. It's like saying that, you know, is it right for your culture to do this? Oh, you're being Islamophobic all of a sudden. You know, bad citizen. You know, we'll have to put you in, you know, prison for this. Look at what's happened to journalist Tommy Robbins.
Yeah. At the same time, I want to stress very, very, very closely that that what happened there is just a gross abusive process. Like, these people were already standing trial.
Mm-hmm.
He's asking for comment, and they threaten the life of his colleague, and he gets arrested for breach of the peace. I don't think that's right.
The initial arrest that Tommy Robinson had was getting into a shouting match with suspects outside of a courthouse.
Yeah, that's breach of the peace.
That is breach of the peace, yeah. So in certain cases, the judge is right to, you know, put him, you know, a contempt of court charge on that. But in the second instance, now they're charging him with violating a law that was enacted in 1925 in the United Kingdom, the prohibiting of recording or broadcasting directly outside of a courthouse.
Well, if that's already established, however, I think that that particular statute goes against a lot of the current law, and that's the issue with parliamentary versus Republican legal systems, is that these two laws can exist in the same legal space. Sorry, I just had a lot of iced tea. These two laws can exist in the same legal space under a parliamentary system because of something called royal prerogative or parliamentary prerogative in the case of, you know, states like Israel, where there isn't a monarch, there's just a president and a unicameral legislature.
Right. And Tommy Robinson, real name Stephen Lennon, the second time that he was arrested outside of a sentencing hearing for 29 convicted pedophiles that were part of a grooming sex ring. And the trial had already ended. The jury had found them guilty. This was the sentencing phase now. And they basically arrested him right on the spot, and within 4 hours, he was given a court-appointed attorney who pleaded him guilty and sentenced to 13 months in state prison. Well,
that's a violation of the Human Rights
London.
Act of 1998, which states that under, I believe it's Section 8, maybe? I'm trying to remember. Let me look her up. But anyways, Human Rights Act 1998 clearly states that you have a right to a fair trial. And if you plead involuntarily in any court system, even an inquisitory court system where the judge is actually part of the finding of fact or discovery process, that is not unconstitutional, because you got to remember, unconstitutional does not exist in the UK legal system. Instead,
Right,
what's happening
they
is
have
that
a
there's
totally
a legal
different crown
controversy
system.
here. There's
Yeah.
there's a definite legal controversy here, because once you have established guilt, I think the sentencing at that point, that falls under the public's right to know.
Well, he was forced to have a court-appointed attorney also. He requested a solicitor of his own choosing. I mean, he's asking his producer.
That's a definite violation of the Human Rights Act of 1998 then.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he has the right to retain his own legal counsel.
Exactly. And
if he is not able to
do have the
retain
right to-
legal counsel, a person is essentially appointed for him.
Exactly. And you're entitled to a right to a speedy trial, but 4 hours, my God.
No,
that
you're
is
not.
just-
You're not guaranteed fair
that's in
and
the
speedy
United
trial.
States, you're entitled to a speedy
Yeah.
trial.
That's the Fifth
Yeah.
Amendment, if I remember correctly.
No, Fifth Amendment is you can't incriminate.
Yeah, self-incrimination. 6
Right.
is right to fair and speedy trial by a jury of your peers. However, that gets waived in some dockets because there are some solicitors, or rather some attorneys, I should use the American word here, who believe that they'll get better verdicts. So if you have two attorneys who are button heads over like a civil procedure, you can't really do this in a criminal procedure. You can't have a bench trial. You can only have a jury trial. But in civil procedure, they can waive it because of the fact that the jury trial provision counts as government speech. And
Now,
I think that goes back to the first topic, but I'll let you continue with your thoughts and criticisms on the matter.
Now, the act of filming outside of a courthouse is designed to protect secrets of the crown. Basically, it's to protect the right, or protect the accused from some I guess from someone.
Presumption of innocence, at least by the
Right.
by the public. The court essentially, what is it? court's a bit weird over there because of the fact that the judges are part of the discovery process. Like the Crown is part of the discovery process. Everything is done through the Crown.
Right.
Even
It's
in the most mundane procedure.
it would be like on the TV show Law and Order if the judge directly controlled the district attorney's office.
Yeah, we're talking things that would require a motion to compel off of a motion, or a primary motion, I should say. Those don't require that in an inquisitorial system. So if someone is found with the evidence of guilt in their possession under an inquisitorial system, they must plead guilty because the state has evidence of their crime.
Now,
I should say the Crown. Sorry, the state's kind of
Crown.
more of an American idiom.
now, the legal process of getting, Stephen Lennon out of jail is probably going to be a nightmare because they're gonna want to take their time, getting him out of jail. They're going to be like, no, we're going to make sure everything's done the right way.
Well, he was already on suspended sentence, so
Yeah. And
there's
so he
not
was
really
kinda
much
screwed.
they can do in an inquisitorial system. Like,
Mm,
the state's pretty much found the evidence of what they think is a crime, so you're guilty.
right.
It's not like the adversarial system in the U.S. where two independent parties representing clients or two different legal counsels for, say, two different legal persons, just to make it a bit more vague, are involved in discovery. Essentially, there's a fair disclosure rule. If one party can see it and the other can't, except for legal strategy, that is protected. If they can't see the evidence brought forth and admitted, and then so that they can incorporate that into their case, and the first time they hear about this is when they're in front of the judge, that usually gets dismissed. Like, that's a self-fulfilling sanction. It does not get admitted under rule, I think it's 13 or 14. I can never keep those things straight. That's why I've never been before the bar. Just too much rule, too much procedure, not enough downtime to let my brain recharge. Not like doing live
can you
streams.
imagine what Matt Jones had to go through at Duke Law School?
I mean, I can imagine it. I've delved into some of the primary sources used for this sort of thing and looked through dockets, mostly the Supreme Court and notable cases. Like, those used to be
Yeah.
high school quiz bowl topics in my day. People would ask
exactly.
you, blah, 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 and you'd be like, okay, is this that one case or the other? And which way did they have the defendant and the plaintiff in that case? But
And that's
a lot of the standard hallmarks like Dred Scott, Brown versus School Board of Topeka, Kansas et al. Actually, that was Brown
actually a
et
good
al.
leader into our second
Yeah.
topic. That's
Let's go
actually
into
a
that.
very good leader. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and this is earlier today. The United States Supreme Court has backed a Christian baker who rebuffed a gay couple. And this is quoting from the Reuters.com article. I'll go ahead and copy that. And we'll send that over to our YouTube chat so that they can see for themselves. Go.
Okay, is this public domain?
I will go ahead and start us off with that.
Has this been...
The
Oh, yeah, it is in public domain. Okay, so I can use that one.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. The United States Supreme Court on Monday handed a victory on narrow grounds Colorado baker who refused, based on his Christian beliefs, to make a wedding cake for a gay couple, stopping short of setting a major precedent, allowing people to claim religious exemptions from anti-discrimination laws. The justices, in a 7-2 decision, said the Colorado Civil Rights Commission showed an impermissible hostility towards religion when it found that Baker Jack Phillips violated the state's anti-discrimination law by rebuffing gay couple David Mullins and Charlie Craig in 2012. This state law bars businesses from refusing service based on race, sex, marital status, or sexual orientation. The court concluded that the commission violated Phillips' religious rights under the United States Constitution's First Amendment. But the justices did not issue a definitive ruling on the circumstances under which people can seek exemptions from anti-discrimination laws based on religion. The decision also did not address important claims raised in the case, including whether baking a cake is a kind of expressive act protected by the Constitution's free speech guarantee. Two of the court's 4 liberals, Stephen Breyer and Elena Kagan, joined the 5 conservative justices in the ruling authored by Justice Anthony Kennedy, who also wrote the landmark 2015 decision legalizing gay marriage nationwide. The Baker case became a cultural flashpoint in the United States, underscoring the tensions between gay rights proponents and conservative Christians. Both sides claimed a measure of victory. The couple's supporters noted that the ruling embraced the importance of gay rights and made it clear that businesses open to the public must serve everyone. The Baker's lawyer said the ruling emphasized the government must respect religious beliefs. It's hard to believe that the government punished me for operating my business consistent with my beliefs about marriage. That isn't freedom or tolerance, Phillips said in a statement. Today's decision means our fight against discrimination and unfair treatment will continue, Mullins and Charlie Craig said in a statement. We have always believed that in America, you should not be turned away from a business open to the public because of who you are. 72% of U.S. adults believe that businesses should not have the right on religious grounds to deny services to customers based on their sexual orientation, a Reuters Ipsos opinion poll released on Monday showed. Our society has come to the recognition that gay persons and gay couples cannot be treated as social outcasts or as inferior in dignity and worth, Justice Kennedy wrote. But Kennedy said the state's commission's hostility towards religion was, quote, was inconsistent with the First Amendment's guarantee that our laws be applied in a manner that is neutral towards religion, end quote. In one exchange, at a 2014 hearing right before the commission cited by Kennedy, former Commissioner Diane Rice said that, quote, freedom of religion and religion has been used to justify all kinds of discrimination throughout history, whether it be slavery, whether it be the Holocaust. Kennedy said that the commission ruled the opposite way in 3 cases brought against bakers in which the business's owners refused to bake cakes containing messages that demeaned gay people or same-sex marriage. Sessions Sales ruling. Republican President Donald Trump's administration, which intervened in the case in support of Phillips, welcomed the ruling. The First Amendment prohibits governments from discriminating against citizens based on the basis of religious beliefs, Attorney General Jeff Sessions said in a statement. The decision made it clear that even if the court ultimately rules in a future case that bakers or other businesses that sell creative products, such as florists and wedding photographers, can avoid punishment under anti-discrimination laws, most businesses open to the public would have no such defense. Of the 50 states, 21, including Colorado, have anti-discrimination laws protecting gay people. And I'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and interject our opinions on this. Sam, your opinion on this, was the Supreme Court correct in the decision on this?
My opinion as, someone who has, quote unquote, been part of the LGBT community as an active member, I herald this decision as a triumph for free speech.
Well, it's not.
It's a triumph for free speech because when you go into somebody's artistic domain, their sense of creative expression, I like to think of it as a suitable test I like to use in order to determine this kind of intuitively is, can you force a Jew to paint a portrait of Hitler?
That's a good question.
And the answer is almost instinctively, almost by knee-jerk, no. But when you talk about gay people, wedding cakes, and a conservative Christian, all of a sudden it becomes abhorrent, almost intolerable. The rhetoric on the left, oh, this guy, he shouldn't have his due process rights, blah, 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 blah. It's just like, if you're a liberal for everybody, even conservatives. I'm sorry.
I think that the Colorado commissioner, who basically demeaned freedom of speech and just derided it, and saying that it was, religion, freedom of religion has been used as a tool of oppression. And that is not the case. Freedom of religion is not to have the state endorse one religion over another religion.
Let me put it this way. If I can get a picture of a lemon-pound layer cake on public domain after 5 seconds of Googling, be like, I can air this. This has rights that are relinquished on it. It's in the public domain. I can air this. Then does that not indicate, at least on some level, how easy it is to make a cake?
Also, if you think about it, isn't this in a way going after somebody who, doesn't want to do a job? If somebody doesn't want to bake my wedding cake, I'll go to another baker. My money is just as green, and I may actually get a better price at another, place. It's like, oh, he didn't want to bake your cake? Well, I'll do it for 20% cheaper.
I mean, I'm going to tell you straight off, nothing against the people who make their living baking cakes. They're wonderful people. Go buy their product from them. But if you go down to the Michaels or any craft supply shop that's actually worth something, they'll have everything you need for fairly cheap. It's like, you can bake your own cake, and you can do it with pizzazz if you want.
Right.
Even get like, a 2-groom cake topper, or Crotty Robot and Tom Servo cake topper.
Exactly. It's going to create a separate industry for cake toppers, I think. If wedding cake bakers don't want to, think about who they're putting on top of the cake, don't sell the topper. Just, have like an online, place to, order a wedding cake.
I think I know
topper.
what happened. I don't want to make it seem like I'm passing a value judgment based merely off of speculation. However, since the case alludes to the creative expression of the conservative Christian baker, I think they wanted to go above and beyond and essentially just have other stuff on there. They were like compelling him to include the cake topper, as you put it, in a legal sense. Maybe not in a literal sense, but in a legal sense. They were making him go that one step that broke the straw that broke the camel's back.
Right.
And at that point, I don't care if you're straight, you're gay, you're lesbian, bi, trans. I don't care what you are. You have a right to refuse to engage in speech. That is guaranteed under the First Amendment and the Fifth Amendment. So anyone who says, oh, they should have just jump and bake the cake, it's like, no. If someone compels you to put the cake topper on there, or compels you to do something in such a way that requires you to violate your belief system or your moral character, you have a right to refuse that service, to refuse to participate in that speech. Even if you're any member of the alphabet soup.
Is Chris on? If so, you want to, have her join in on this?
Oh, she's looking at stuff.
Oh.
She was wanting to know if you could join us.
I will move my.
Pull up her chair. Have her pull up her chair closer to me.
Okay, we could just. That's the thing. I got the cans on in order to check your levels and make sure that there's no echo, because this is a pretty small flat. I'm gonna be perfectly honest, but we make it work. If you have enough, if you have enough baffles and enough walls, you can do pretty much anything with audio engineering. Just don't disturb the neighbors. Yeah, the main thing about this is that if you know somebody or if you know where a craft store is, you can get a cake. I think that's a synopsis. Driving out of your way, as they did, to this person who expressed their beliefs, you know, of their own free will. They have prior knowledge, and just said, "Hey, we want to force you. We want to force the state to force you to bake a cake." That's wrong. The only way that would work is if you could somehow construct the baker's actions as government speech, which doesn't work because at no point was there a governmental contract being made. So if there's no consideration by the government and the government has no legal standing in this matter, it's not government speech.
Oh, and I guarantee that if Rowan County Kim Davis were to try to deny marriage licenses again, that the Supreme Court at this point would rule 9-0 that no, you work for the government, so you have to issue the, you know, your department
even
has
if
to
you
issue
disagree
the
with
license.
it as a justice of the court, even if you disagree with the act being committed, I think there's still a very good conservative principle that there is stare decisis, you know, the staying of decisions. So if you were to rule otherwise, that would be assuming that Obergefell v. Hodges isn't based in sound law, and considering that it's a construction of the 14th Amendment, I don't think you're going to win that case. I don't think you're going to win on that hill. I think it's just going to be the hill you die on. But legally speaking, you know, who you are as a plaintiff, your identity is immaterial before the court. So if I plead a case and I say to you, I went to a gay baker who for whatever reason only does gay wedding cakes, and I said I want, you know, a traditional 3-layer white buttercream, all the ribbons and bows, and put bride and groom topper on it, and they refused that, I can guarantee you I would not have anywhere near the consideration that the Colorado, was it Supreme Court or District Court? Hold on. Check the prior ruling on. Colorado Civil Rights Commission. So, wow. That's not good. That's not good at all. This should be decided in either a district or Supreme Court. It shouldn't be tried in a commission. We are not a parliamentary system. Commissions are for permits and things that the government licenses to people. The government does not license speech to people. That's stupid.
There's a difference between getting a permit for a parade, like, you know, during Pride Month for Lexington to, you know,
we
have
do
them
that through
outside
the
courthouse.
city commission or the board of electmen or selectmen or however your municipality is organized. I don't really care about that part. But the fact that this was tried by a commission, which implies that we are somehow beholden for our rights to some commissar who is giving us our rights, that's no. Go take that crap north of the border where they're doing that thing just fine, and by just fine I mean it's a raging dumpster fire of leftist identity politics. Get it away from my state, get it out of my country. This does not have any relevance in a republic where a court decides whether or not somebody violates someone else's rights.
Well, when a Colorado commissioner is using the words, the quote, freedom of religion and religion has been used to justify all kinds of discrimination throughout history, then and whether it be slavery, whether it be the Holocaust.
It's also been used to justify a lot of good. Hey, look at that principle of explosion. I can prove anything. I can prove anything using that statement just because the opposite is also true.
But she's including freedom of religion. Now, religion itself has been justified the discrimination, but the freedom of religion is a person's choice, a freedom of, do you want to believe in, Christianity?
The minute you invoke religion, and here's kind of like the First Amendment loophole that everybody from the Church of the Subgenius to the Church of Satan uses, is that the government has to be impartial. It cannot get involved in matters of the church, and it has to thereby define a religion as vaguely as possible. So if you incorporate any name, like you want to be the First Church of the Killdozer, go right ahead, and you can become basically a non-profit that has liturgical services over a guy who blew his brains out in a concrete-coated bulldozer.
First Church of the Killdozer, huh?
Yeah.
Oh.
Sounds like we've got a guest.
Hi, Reverend Silver Twins Jones has joined us. How are you, Silver Twins?
Thank you for coming.
Having a few difficulties with my headphones because for some reason I can't hear crud.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're coming through 5x5, by the way.
Yeah, you sound perfect on our end.
Let me check the needle, make sure that's pinging.
Okay, I can't hear myself. But
yeah,
don't worry about that.
You won't be able to hear yourself. That's the echo cancellation working. If you get too hot to the mic, it basically just flips that out of phase and cancels it for you using a fast Fourier transform. So don't worry about it. That's the machine working as intended.
That's actually really nice because when I was at the radio station and would do remotes, every single time that I would go out and I'd have to use somebody's cell phone to call into the radio station, I'd always get that wicked echo and they'd always have to do something to the cell phone so it wouldn't do that.
Oh, I'm guessing they probably just simulcasted you on cell phone or something, which that'd be ghetto. I'm gonna be honest. But there are a lot of things you have to do if you're in the business and you have to go somewhere and people have to hear you. You got to put up with a lot of crap. That's why I record at home.
Okay, so we're talking about Colorado baker who didn't want to bake a cake, for goodness sake. What to do.
Doesn't want the business. That's his own fault. I mean, that's his own pocketbook.
Yeah, at some point, you have to have some license over how you want to use your agency as a person. If someone tries to infringe upon that, there are numerous amendments that they would be violating in the process. So just, even if you don't like the ACLU, go get a pocket constitution. Every time you see one of these articles, before you start having feels and getting butthurt about some poor gay couple, remember that we don't decide things ad misericordiam in a court of law. We decide things by the matters of fact and discovery.
Exactly. It's not like it's not like this guy was the guy who bakes wedding cakes in Colorado.
Yeah.
There's plenty of bakers out there who need the business, who want the business, and who, really, whether it bothers them or not, they're not going to be like, oh, well, you know what? I'll do it. I don't particularly like it, but, I need to pay the rent this month kind of thing.
I'll tell you what also kind of gets me is that a big tentpole among the left is buy within your own community. And he basically tracked this guy out of the way, said, we want to compel you to commit an act of speech. They didn't consider alternatives. That was the SCOTUS ruling.
There probably were plenty of other people who would have baked the cake for cheaper, but they specifically went out of their way to harass one person.
Yeah, the minute you start selecting people and singling them out for their use of speech, that becomes a strategic lawsuit against public participation. Sorry, flat out. I don't even think that this should have gone before a commission. I think it should have gone to a district court. District court should have gone, hey, you're basically preventing this guy from participating in public speech because you disagree with him. Throw this thing out. And that's assuming it doesn't just get bumped up to a commercial docket and immediately dismissed, like, for example, Ozonian v. Herrera.
It's really weird, though, because I have actually bought a wedding cake, and it was for myself. And, I mean, not for me.
Damn, how hungry were you?
Or when I got married. And
right. You placed a pre-order, kind of like a pre-need for a funeral home.
It is a cake. It's not as though there's, like, cake for gay people or cake for straight people. Cake is cake.
I mean,
unless you use, like, pink food coloring or something. I don't know.
That'd be interesting. I don't think it would send the right message, though.
No.
Kind of more like less virgin love and more we shacked up in Vegas.
That wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah.
Vegas, Las Vegas, I'm sure there's plenty of, people who would bake the cake in Las Vegas.
Those guys got everything going there. They understand where their money is, and they are selling hard. I have to admire each and every one of those guys. Just basically finding a spot, building some shit, and then waiting for the guys who actually built the less successful shit, buying out their shares and just demolishing it. The bloodbath of capitalism in Las Vegas has been keeping our tourism industry strong. I think that's kind of why people have started gravitating more towards the West Coast, is because of that. That there's actually something here as opposed to Disneyfication on the East Coast. It's like, why is this happening? I mean, I get that there are people who make their living on the East Coast and they do really good content, like JonTron. But I don't know. I kind of grew up in the East, and not anything I really care to go back to. I'm being perfectly honest. There are some good people there, but it has a way of wearing on you.
With that, the 2 years that I lived in Kentucky, I mean, I was very, very pleased with how friendly everybody was. That it wears on you.
Oh, it's Lexington. It's Lexington, you gotta understand.
Yeah, the big city's going to do that to you anyway, but I'm talking about like 29 years of living in the holler and then living in a suburban holler and then deciding, screw that, I'm going to move all the way over to Lexington and be in a metropolitan area because for some odd reason I thought that would work because more jobs. But I never could break into my niche there. Even when I was trying really, really hard, like we're talking buckling down, doing like advanced physics and shit. It's like, I'm trying. I don't have a job. Starving. I'm trying to get these probability density functions written out.
Now, go ahead.
The one thing that I thought was very unusual is the fact that I've been in Chicago, Kansas City, Denver, you name it. Um, Lexington didn't feel like a big city. Population, it did not have that big city feel.
Pueblo, by comparison, feels smaller to me than
Well,
Lexington.
we've circled Pueblo a lot of times. We've gone out many times.
Oh, yeah.
The thing is, when we lived over on, I think it was the east side or the west side.
Yeah, we're on the south side, actually. We're in Garden Springs. That was
Okay, so on the south side, that's a lot of the immigrant population. Like pretty much everything you need is right in that area around the campus on the south side. And I think it's weird to see a metropolitan area where you go along and it doesn't really feel like the different districts have their own character. Like I drive by the Jif plant, it feels like, you know, I'm in a slightly slummier version of the South Slums. It just feels like more of the same, like copy pasted around. But here, because of the lower population, I mean, the place is pretty much a big Superfund site. Thank you, Superfund sites. You make my rent cheap.
Especially for a 3-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the thing about Lexington is it's a very, you know, open and inclusive town. I mean, Lexington has had quite a history, you know, with, you know, the homosexual community. You know, there was many famous, you know, houses that kind of, you know, it was called the Athens of the West for a reason.
I think
basically
why it doesn't feel quite as big is because there wasn't a Tarrytown like you have in Ann Arbor, or there wasn't a Castro district like you have in San Francisco. It seems like there's a bunch of gay bars copy pasted around, and that's okay because hey, your niche is your niche, and you need to protect it with strategic location. But it didn't have the kind of cohesion like it had during Pride. You know, Pride on the courthouse steps and all that. That's kind of fun. I mean, there's a parade, people sell stuff. You know, nobody's scaring the children or animals. In fact, the police are out in full force.
And Pride Parade in Lexington is quite an event and brings, you know, almost like, what was it, like 2,500, maybe 3,000 participants at least.
Yeah, I don't understand how they get downtown. Like, downtown is pretty small. Like, it almost feels like a reclaimed pit mine like Madisonville did.
Yeah, especially over there by the library, Phoenix Park and all that.
Yeah. Kind of weird growing up in coal country. But we do have, I believe, another story to get to.
Yeah, the FBI agent on the dance floor.
I think Chris especially wanted to comment on this one.
Yeah, see that guy? He's the scene. He's a shooting machine.
Oh, God.
If you're busy dancing, that's fine, but don't be doing mule kicks on the dance floor with a loaded weapon strapped to your body. Anybody with a clue knows you're not supposed to do this.
And I'm going to go ahead and read off from Independent Code UK. An FBI officer who was showing off an acrobatic dance moves in front of a crowd in a Denver nightclub accidentally shot a man in the leg after his gun fell from his pocket during a backflip. Footage of the off-duty agent dancing enthusiastically was captured by a bystander in a video which has been shared thousands of times. Dressed in casual trousers and a t-shirt, he springs backwards onto his hands. As he lands, a gun falls from his waistband onto the floor and goes off as he scrambles to quickly pick it up. He then tucks it into his waistband and raises his hands in the air as he walks away. One of the other people in the club was hit in the leg by the bullet and taken to the hospital. He was not badly hurt, according to Denver police. In a statement, the Denver Police Department said the agent, quote, was dancing at a nightclub when his firearm became dislodged from its waistband holster and fell onto the floor. When the agent retrieved his handgun, an unintended discharge occurred. The incident is being investigated. The off-duty agent was interviewed by police before being released to a Federal Bureau of Investigation supervisor. The Denver District Attorney's Office will decide whether to press any charges. Denver District Attorney spokesman Ken Lane declined to comment as the incident remains under investigation by police. FBI spokeswoman Amy Sanders also said police were leading the investigation and that it was a personnel matter for the FBI. Reuters contributed to this report. If you're going to be dancing at a club, leave your pistol at home. If you work for the feds,
I have to interject as somebody who's done a fair bit of research on carry and open and concealed carry. If you're security detail, if you're trained personnel,
if you're security detail, you're not dancing.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I want to stress, most importantly, that this was not a slam fire, and an independent makes it clear that this was not a slam fire. This was a negligent manual discharge of the weapon.
Can you find that
if he had just left it,
left
it behind. If he had just gone and recovered the weapon and not panicked over it like a spaz, he wouldn't have put his booger flinger on the boom boom switch.
You know what the true question I want to ask this guy is? He managed to do moves like that in a pair of Dockers.
These guys train. Like, there is no skipping
doesn't.
leg day if you're security personnel or a federal agent. It's just not in your vocabulary.
Like ripping his pants.
Yeah, they're action pants.
He move that way.
They're like the fucking Chuck Norris action pants, dude.
Here, I sent you a link to ABC News. This shows the video.
Okay.
You want to go ahead and play that from stream?
Hold on, let me try to get a screen capture. Okay, so we're playing this from ABC News. All rights reserved by ABC News.
Right. All hail the mouse.
Don't sue us. I forgot that. How did I forget? It's
like it'd be easier if this was on a Twitter like Vine or a Loop or GIF or something. It'll be on a GIF eventually.
Okay, let me just bring it in.
Now.
I can too. That's the scary part. Ladies and gentlemen, your next Giphy star.
Here. Like,
push the button, Frank.
no, I'm scrubbing through it. Picking the.
I'm keeping
Now
a
to
watch
that
on it
alarming video
myself.
of an
I don't
off-duty
think it comes
FBI
through.
agent whose gun went off.
No, it's not through on the pre. So we're gonna skip the video.
Wait a minute.
We get
Hold on, let me skip
the
to it.
desktop audio off of it, but we're just gonna scrub it. I'm not gonna.
No, you can play it without the sound.
No.
You can play it without the audio, can't you?
Just gonna scrub it because the idea is that we were to comment on the visual component, and since we don't have rights to the audio portion, like essentially we would have to skip to this part or to the part where they show the video. But yeah, if we had the primary source, it would be a lot easier because
Yeah.
essentially we'd be able to hear the audio and you in on that. I'm just gonna exercise editorial prerogative and say
Yeah,
the video
we'll
source is widely available. Please look at it.
we
at your own
posted a
leisure.
link to it in our
Yes.
YouTube chat, so
Always
you
want
can go
citations.
watch it on that at least. But needless to say, it demonstrates really shocking lack of responsibility for proper firearm safety by the FBI agent's part to be dancing with a loaded weapon.
I think
they
more
say-
so than dancing with a loaded weapon, because these holsters are not. Let me put it this way: if it
Sounds like a
jostled
good
out
song
of there,
title.
if it
That's an
jostled
awesome
out of
song
the
title.
out of his waistband holster, and they're the kind
It's
of
like
waistband
a-
holsters that I'm familiar with,
Mhm.
then those require you to put a pretty excessive amount of force on the holster itself in order to, ready the weapon. Like, it's essentially
Right.
you get two hands, kind of like it in the classic pistol formation, and you ready on your target.
He didn't secure it properly in the holster.
Yeah, he must have forgot to like hit the little tab on it that kind of snaps it in place. But
Yeah.
the main thing is that it went off because he grabbed at it in a haphazard manner. If you're ever going to handle a firearm and you are security or trained personnel, and no, you can't call an adult essentially to handle
You
it
have to
for
grab
you.
it by the barrel end first.
No,
You don't?
never grab a gun by the barrel or slide. If it discharges, that could result in serious injury or death. The main thing you want to make
Yourself,
sure is
yeah.
just that your index finger is over the trigger guard, not behind it. If it's behind the trigger guard, when you go to yank up that weapon, you engage the trigger and the grip safety, thus meaning you aren't covered with shit. So you gotta make sure booger flinger, off bang bang switch. And I cannot
I did
stress
have a
that
question for you.
importantly enough.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
How old is this guy? I mean, is he a newbie? Is he a trained veteran that just lost his mind? This person. Because this isn't like a well trained old school officer would do.
I don't know. He seems pretty young. He's pretty limber if he's doing dance moves like that.
To be
I mean,
fair,
you're looking at
he's-
somebody who's probably played a lot of Dance Dance Revolution.
Yeah, that's what I was curious. How's he moving like that in those Dockers? Because Dockers don't move like that. Like special elastics sewn into his pants so that he can do those high kicks. But come on.
I just honestly
Well, it
don't
also-
know
It
why you
also
can't
shows that his weapon is on a real hair trigger. If it was able to go off that
No,
easy.
no. We're talking like, okay, so standard, it's about 5 foot-pounds on the trigger, which is a little bit more than you would normally just have squeezing the trigger guard, right? Getting ready for
Mhm.
your target to get into sight picture. But if you yank up, you're basically applying the full force of your forearm onto that trigger, which far exceeds the 5-pound threshold required for disc. Like, these guys will even ramp it up to like 7-8 pounds if they really have to. It's kind of a matter of how much do you need to use that firearm versus how much shit do you want to be if it goes off in a negligent manner like it did here. And the FBI has pretty much established that 5 pounds is the minimum trigger pull required for law enforcement and security personnel. They
So
have a
anything
ton of
under 5
guidelines.
pounds.
Anything under 5 pounds is considered a quote unquote hair trigger on a handgun.
Right, and they wouldn't allow that as a field agent.
Yeah, you're not allowed,
No.
because that is government property, you are not allowed to tamper with the trigger pull in order to make it lower than 5 pounds. You can raise it. That kind of requires putting a new load on the firing, or on the action group, I should say, which engages the firing group, which then discharges the bullet from the barrel. But the main thing here is that there are so many things wrong. And this person is a duly appointed officer of the state, an officer of the law, and an officer
Of the
state.
federal government,
Yeah.
of the Federal Bureau of Investigations.
This guy's a sworn officer. He should know better. If you're scrambling on a weapon, you should know, okay, good rule of thumb, not saying anyone should ever do this. But if you absolutely have to pick up a loose handgun, you can't call an adult. You know, make your hand as open as possible to get over the trigger.
Right.
Basically prevent yourself from picking up the trigger as you pick up the grip. And this is easier done on like long guns, things with Prince of Wales stocks, you know, or Prince of Wales stocks, I should say, with the integrated handle. Those are usually. I am more of a target sport guy.
Well, I tell you what, if I clean up my pee, I think there's going to be an opening at the Colorado Denver, field office pretty soon.
Oh, you have to pass a PFT background check from hell, and they usually only promote people who are already in the service.
Yeah, and I've
You
already
have to
got my
start at-
key license anyway. That would disqualify me automatically.
Yeah, I'd say stick to what you're good at, and if you are physically inclined and live in the Denver area, you should probably consider, I don't know, maybe joining because you gotta. I guarantee you there are bums off the street that have better trigger discipline than this guy. I guarantee
Exactly.
I'm tempted to
you.
agree with you.
And the thing is that you can't really train these guys in, because training these guys in requires having experience with open carry. And one thing you can't do, at least not if you're not licensed personnel with the city limits of Denver, is carry a firearm, concealed carry, for example. A lot of people have been trying to get reversed, but it doesn't show. So I guess there are going to be a lot of country bumpkins hauling their asses on turnip trucks over to Denver pretty soon, seeing if their country boy strength can actually, benefit the nation's finest.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah. Was there anything more we wanted to interject about the FBI agent?
No, just poor trigger discipline, poor holstering, lack of situational awareness. Like when he goes for the gun, nobody else is going for it. Like that's the only time you should ever pick it up immediate ready. Like have your finger behind the trigger. The only time.
Well, I can
Like
understand.
if you have
this
to
guy.
blind fire into a crowd of charging enemies, that would justify it. But if you're in a civilian location where people are there lawfully and none of them are going for your gun, do not put your finger behind the trigger guard, even if you're a member of fine law enforcement establishment.
Don't keep a clip loaded in it, and make sure there's no rounds. And...
Always, if you are concealed or open carry, if you have the proper paperwork filled out, you should always carry loaded, but carry with a safety. Engage every safety on that thing, especially if you got I think 6 Hour has like a 5-factor safety now on their guns. That's kind of the gold standard. The Glock block is easier to aim, but it just depends on your personal preference as security personnel. If you want to carry outside of duty, like this guy was off duty first off, so I guess if he needed to act immediately, yes, but at the same time, you got to have situational awareness. You got to have the idea that you don't want your carry to print, you don't want doing anything that jostle your carry, and you definitely want to avoid, if ever possible, any sort of accidental discharge or negligent discharge by all means necessary. That means having safeties engaged and having it pretty much ready to go, like ready to rack, I should say. The component there is that a round should not already be in battery.
When you look at this whole situation, it is just a ludicrous amount of compounded fail.
Yeah.
Do this, he didn't do this, he didn't do this. And for being an FBI officer, that's a really large slip.
Yeah, an investigator has to have discretion. First and foremost. Else they can't do their job. They are disqualified.
I realize that,
but it's just we really do need a common sense gun safety standard in the country. Not common sense gun control, very much against quote unquote common sense, but a common sense gun safety, some kind of curriculum where you can get to people and go, okay, the gun, it's dangerous, it's not a toy. If you use it improperly, it can cause serious injury or death, the operator or bystanders.
Yeah, and shouldn't there be like a coat check or something where they could get in the backroom safe or something like that to make sure nobody gets to it?
That's the primary point of failure. That's the first accident. That the assumption, the legal assumption is, as far as the concealed carry concealed carry and open carry laws in the city limits of Denver are concerned, it's only if you have that badge on you. He had his badge on him. He was off duty, but he had the badge on him to say, I am emergency personnel. I have a right to carry this weapon lawfully into this establishment. So right there, you have a legal assumption that might be faulty. Just pointing that out there.
I think that he blew his cover if he's working a drug case in that club, though. He blew his cover. He blew his cover the moment that, he's brandishing a weapon.
Yeah, anytime you have a weapon out and open anywhere, it's in a major metropolitan area, people know that you're fed. I mean, you pretty much made yourself at that point, which is why they're not disclosing the identity or age. He was a guy who was supposed to be undercover. He was supposed to not be identified. He's not supposed to be. He fucking blew a sting, essentially.
Yeah, well, he blew his sting the moment he came in there, just acting like fucking.
I mean, the only thing that's working in the agency is the fact that whoever these unscrupulous actors that they're trying to investigate don't really have, anything else. They're path dependent on committing these activities. Can't, go straight in because they're into, and part of that makes me kind of wish that these guys could get help, but at the end of the day, they made their own bed. So and at this point, if you know somebody's on you, like white on rice, they're fed. The only two choices you have are do what the boss tells you, which I would not recommend, by the way, because that's a felony charge.
I was only following orders.
Yeah, like that only works if you lawyer up and you keep your mouth. That's the only way Alfred pleas work. That's the only way that turning state evidence works, is if you're mouth shut. So, to everyone who's committing unscrupulous activities in the area, you might want to check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah, I think that, whoever's been using that club as cover is going to be like, you know what? We're going to meet at another club.
Yeah, I would highly recommend that too. I mean, not saying that I'm recommending anybody commit illegal activity.
No. I mean,
if you're going
hypothetically,
to,
you would
the common
recommend it.
sense would be to not continue to use
Yeah.
that location because it is blown, because it is compromised. You know, there's a strategy for all of this. And at the end of the day, it's just another dance, another waltz, and you're keeping a distance from each other.
Another
Pretty-
dance.
Yeah, it is. It's just like, it's one of those dances where it's not like a slow, passionate dance. It's more like you keep your partner at arm's length and you go, you know, accelerando.
You came up with a brilliant title for a song, or dancing with a loaded weapon.
The dancing with my loaded gun.
Yeah. I'm dancing with a loaded weapon. But I think that pretty much wraps up, the FBI agent topic on that. Chris, did you have any other, input about our other topics tonight?
I will admit that the cake decision surprised me.
It surprised me it was 7-2. And then I saw the comments by the Colorado commissioner, and then it made perfect sense why the two liberal elements of the court, 2 of the 4 liberal judges said, hey, you know what? You treated this guy unfairly. So
Like I said, it should not have gone to a commission. Commissions are for inquisitorial legal systems. We have an adversarial legal system. And the fact that this inquest was conducted in a blatantly partial way illustrates why we do not have an inquisitorial legal here in the U.S.
right, they were throwing away the freedom of religion, right at the get-go.
Throwing away freedom of religion, throwing away the right to free expression, throwing away right to refuse to engage in speech. You have a right not to sign that petition, to not
Right.
Want redress of grievance, or even feel that you're entitled to redress of grievance. That there's nothing compelling you to make a controversy. And in fact, the Constitution, even before you get to the Bill of Rights, makes it pretty explicitly clear: we're not here to be your baby. We're not here to support your fifis. We're here to promulgate laws, enact, or decide based on those.
My question is, would this still be applied the other way around? Like, say, for example, you have a heterosexual couple that goes to a bakery and they want a cake, and the baker says, I'm sorry, I only make gay cakes.
Yeah, I raised
Exactly.
that point.
Yeah, I mean,
and
that
at the ultimate onset, or at the ultimate conclusion of that, we kind of established, that would be perfectly acceptable, both in terms of the Human Rights Commission prejudiced view of the case, and in the personal view of everyone here, and in stare decisis of this recent trial, or this recent decision, I should say.
See, as a creative person, for everybody who doesn't know, I'm a jewelry designer is my day job, and I build jewelry.
Which you sell on Etsy too.
I'm building that Etsy store. Trust me, I am working on it.
Inventory comes first, then the storefront.
But I don't understand, as an artist myself, if someone was to come to me and say, hey, I need a necklace done, it's for my boyfriend, and it's a male that's asking me, no problem with that. I mean, a necklace is a necklace. It can go for anybody. There's no reason to discriminate against.
But here's the rub.
Product.
If someone commissioned you to make a piece that had like swastikas and eagles on it,
I would ask, you know, several questions about their design choices, but
That's can you be compelled into making something that goes against your belief?
comes to a creative work such as baking or jewelry or something like that,
Right.
there's no way that you can look at a ring and say, okay, that's a man's ring, that's for gay men, or this is for lesbians. I mean, there's nothing like that at all.
It would be interesting to go into this bakery shop with a hidden camera and ask the guy, "Hey, would you commission a Nazi swastika cake for our group?"
Yeah, and even
And
at that
see
point,
what he does with that. I mean, see how his loyalties and religious expression lies then.
well,
Okay,
that's not material to the matter of fact. That's just an appeal to spectacle. The more important issue is whether or not he can express his speech within his free agency in a
Mm.
commissioned work, and the answer is yes. Yes, he can. That means he also has the right to refuse commission, refuse service. I mean, every business has the right to refuse service on the grounds that, well, actually without cause, just they can do it. Now, on the
But
other hand, they have to defend that decision if it so happens that the offended party thinks that there might have been prior animus. And that's a whole different branch of tort altogether. But when you're discussing, one lawful corporate entity that is doing artistic work, essentially, like, I don't know, an art factory, I guess you think of, to depersonalize it, to remove all this from it.
Kincaid, painter of crap.
Yeah, kind of like Thomas Kincaid, painter of crap. The main thing that you really need when you're making these determinations is this personal speech or is this free speech? Or is this free public, what do you say, personal speech? There we go. Is this government speech or personal speech? And if you can somehow make a legal construction that the baker's cake is government speech and deliver it in a convincing manner, I would bet dollars to donuts that next time this controversy comes around, you could probably decide it the other way. But right now, under our current legal precedents, there's nothing telling anyone that they have to engage in public speech or that they have to engage in any sort of speech other than, say, if their speech would cause a reasonable individual in a crowd to act violently, that's
What
heckler's veto, and you have to use government speech to suppress personal speech. It's one of the very few exceptions. But most of
a
that,
sexual couple?
yeah,
Sorry, DeBard.
there's,
If it was a heterosexual couple that was non-religious, like if it was for an atheist ceremony, at the courthouse, will deny you services on that.
No, you cut out after could they still?
Is an atheist and they just want a cake for a general wedding reception.
Hmm.
Could they refuse your services because it's an atheist wedding or something like that?
That's a good question.
I think if you could prove there was some urgency in providing the service, like if
we need a wedding cake in 24 hours
yeah,
because
like if you can't drive to where you need to get your cake from in a reasonable amount of time, then that refusal of service may fall under an what do you say, an impermissible discrimination, illegal discrimination based on religious belief or lack thereof, which are interchangeable legally speaking, but are not philosophically speaking in case any theists are listening.
Just don't seem to understand is that when you order a wedding cake, you order it 5 or 6 months in advance.
Yeah,
Just
it's
say,
something
"I'm
that has to
wedding
be
cake in
planned.
So there's
24
no
hours."
imminent or exigent circumstance that could possibly be used to justify this as a violation of the couple's right to engage in a protected act of speech, which is, having their cake.
And also to that effect, the couple themselves don't necessarily buy the or go to the baker and order the cake. It's
Yes,
the
they
wedding
do.
planners who go to the
A lot
bakery
of people
and
plan
say,
their weddings themselves.
Yeah,
I didn't have a
nowadays
wedding
people
cake.
can't.
I
I
did it
mean,
myself.
planners are
"Hmm,
just too expensive. I'm just gonna say it flat out. They're too expensive for a lot of middle class and working class couples. I mean, they price themselves out of market, but ultimately they make money off of the one or two clients
rich
in a
off
year.
of the laziness of the rich people that are
Yeah.
hired."
They're
Yeah.
there as middlemen.
Entirely
That's
a question
already
of laziness. It's if you have a high dollar executive that's extremely busy and their time is money, they're going to have the wedding planner take care of everything. They'll answer questions and stuff, but they leave it to this person's discretion. And what it isn't, because a lot of these people have huge, like $50,000 plus wedding receptions. And if you're dealing with like 200 guests and a huge serving line and stuff like that, you need to have somebody there to help take care of the small stuff, because otherwise, if you're too busy people, you might not get a wedding reception. You might not have a wedding.
Well,
These things take a lot of planning and a lot of time. You can't just, I mean, yes, you can just go to the courthouse, but you have to get your wedding license like 5 days before you get married and
well,
stuff
when
like
you
that. I mean,
get
there's
that act, when you get the wedding license 5 days before you're married, technically you're already married by the wedding
No.
license itself.
no, you have to, it has to be signed in
Yeah.
witness.
By the just
Otherwise,
by-
pick it up. If you have 30 days to use it,
oh, okay,
don't
so it's
use
like,
it, it's invalidated. You have to go get another one.
Yeah, this is to prevent solicitation of marriage, by the way, in case anyone was unclear about that.
Now, any other comments about the wild card topic that we had about the Department of Homeland Security going to keep a list of bloggers and social media influencers and journalists?
Have we turned into the Soviets? Do we need to do that?
Don't really need to do much of anything, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't believe that the government is acting, in bad faith. I'm not going to assume that, because that would invalidate the social contract, and you never want to invalidate the social contract when you're thinking about these things. The moment you do that, you're off in crazy land.
Which is true, but comes a time when you have to just let the celebrities and the news people do their job. You can't micromanage everybody, and just because
I mean, the
you
CIA
want
paid
to
off
know
Jackson
who these
Pollock
people are.
to beat Stalin, essentially. A lot of this stuff has been like under the table. Even the postmodern movement had a lot of influence by the CIA.
Well,
So
the
CIA
Department of
and
Homeland
FBI
Security.
wanting to monitor artistic expression and control it is nothing new. I want to stress that perfectly clear.
I realize that, but I think their attempt at trying to control everybody is guided, because I think I understand what they're trying to go for, but the fact that big written list, it smacks of the Soviet thing, where there's this huge list of can't play and for whatever reason and stuff like that. And
Oh, it
there's
still goes on in like places like Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan. Well, actually, not so much Kazakhstan, but definitely Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan.
Yes, but we are not them.
Yeah, I mean, we're not Central Asia. We have different cultural mores here. And the fact that they would even try to, you know, concentrate this thing. I mean, look at Hollywood. Look how septic that turned out. Thanks, CIA.
At the doctor's office, the only thing in the waiting room is People in Us magazine. And I had to sit there for an hour and a half before, I could go in and be seen.
Well, I think that what you have.
The biggest fluff. It's just cotton candy
What
bullshit.
soft news?
Right.
I'm not going to begrudge people their tastes in media consumption. I'm not a highbrow guy.
It's a media entertainment complex, similar to what Eisenhower said in his farewell address about warning about a military-industrial complex.
Which George Washington
similar.
fully supported, by the way.
Right. Now,
He wanted
the
people
media
making
entertainment-
guns in their sheds. That is how well distributed he wanted the military-industrial complex. He wanted it to exist on a personal scale. And you think about that now, and those views are fundamentally incompatible with at least some body of the National Firearms Act. On the other hand, you can machine your own upper and carry it around, attach to the rest of the gun. And as long as that's your personal carry and you never sell it and you never transfer it and it's destroyed or or transferred with your estate, that's a perfectly legal carry, even though the NFA says that you need that lower receiver to have the serial number on it. You can machine that lower, machine it upper, and put it
getting
together.
back to media.
Yeah, how did we get on guns again?
I'm sorry.
I know. Getting back to the media entertainment.
Yeah, let's get back to media and entertainment complex.
We have this, apparatus in place where, Us Magazine, where you have to follow the latest about Angelina Jolie, or, what's going on with Harvey Weinstein and #MeToo. And this
That's the thing that gets me, is that Me Too thinks they're clever. It's like they're rehashing every bit of Kenneth Anger's Hollywood Babylon that they can in order to get some extortion money. It's like, we've known this is septic. We've known there are big influences within Hollywood that have not been conducive to, an audience focused, entertainment. It's more of a doctrine focused.
It's a product.
Yeah, everything's a product. When you get down to it economically, everything is intended as production or consumption, except for a laundry list of acts that I could link from Wikipedia to.
Well, no, movies like The Godfather and Godfather Part 2, those are works of art. Those are cinematic artworks, okay? Movies like Pulp Fiction, cinematic art. Movies like Transformers is a product. Movies like Star Wars now is a product. The new Star Wars Solo movie, now with pansexuality and Bluetooth.
Like, do I really need the guy who sold me malt liquor to,
do I need to think
wanna
about
have
him,
sex with a bunch of people or a bunch of different types of people? It's like, that doesn't
just being
inform
in
his
completely
character.
open, it's not meant to be, everything is not meant to be an erotic love story. Who cares? I don't want to think about the bedroom activities, Don't show that
I want
part.
a story. I want a good plot. I want something original. I'm sick of
Like the best
Transformers 57 and
Oh, you don't have to worry about that.
And you know what? I almost wonder if Ron Howard was tempted to put in a scene where basically, Donald Glover and R2-D2, just awkwardly walk out of a room and you go, yeah, that just happened.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people have been wanting those brick joke moments in cinema for a long time. Doesn't seem like they're coming back. You're not going to get that Harold and Maude blood in the bathtub moment where it's just never spoken about again and the plot continues like it never happened. It's just not going to happen.
That Harold and Maude, that's another cinematic arc, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
One of the things that I grew up reading like People and Us and Cosmopolitan and stuff like that because my mom always had them.
Oh, I love tabloids. Yeah, I mean,
That
eh,
when
I
I grew
miss
up,
I miss weekly weird news.
good too.
Yeah.
Um, when I started living my own life and having to worry about my own stuff, day to day, reading about other people's daily stuff that they were famous or not. Yes, they buy groceries, they wipe their butt, they have to buy diapers. Big deal. We all do that. Why do I need to read about
Yeah,
people that
they're entertainers. They're there to provide a product, and I guess in this way, I guess other people think that they can provide a product off of them, and a lot of it comes back to the fact that we like to just as social animals comment on each other's actions. I mean, even among the PETA hound, we don't have any sort of linguistic recursion. They will still talk about goings on, and pretty much exclusively the immediate surrounding and what's going on. Not that they're slow or anything. It's just that their language lacks that concept of recursion, of like counting a lot of things or saying what you did yesterday. Those don't exist in that language. But
see, I understand that going around since time immemorial.
yeah, it's
That doesn't
amazing how
bug
much
me
gossip and language are intertwined.
and add slang in there too. I mean, that's one of the things I enjoy studying about is how slang has changed, over the years.
So you're a fellow
Um,
philologist.
Here's a thought. What if Disney decides that they're going to basically pull like the the fictional film company in the Blake Edwards movie SOB did, and just say, you know what, we're recalling all the prints, and we're not going to release this on home video kind of thing.
You mean
But
Song of the
then,
South? Because it sounds like you're talking about Song of the South.
yes. I
uh,
remember
well,
seeing that at the theater when I was like 5. Oh my god! I was just thinking about the music and that like a couple days ago.
hmm,
Talk about a memory trip there.
Yeah, I mean, it's got
yeah.
good music. It's just nobody wants to talk about it anymore because the elephant in the room.
Racist. Oh my god.
Yes,
Uh,
I mean that's the thing. You need, I think, a certain amount of edge to kind of get the audience's attention.
hey,
At
you
the
got to
point that
understand
you start trending towards this homogenized view of society and don't instead go, this happened and we need to think about it in a more, I don't know, constructive fashion would be the right word. Kind of like,
Well,
yeah, here's an image of someone who is a positive and nurturing influence in his community. Why are you pretty much banning this movie? It's okay. It goes a bit far. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would definitely not put this on the kids section. Like this be more like a direct thing. But there are people who like that music. There are people who like the character of Uncle Remus. Because
Yeah.
our Uncle Remus is pretty wholesome.
he's kind of like, yeah, I mean,
He's a lot more wholesome than Bill Cosby, let me put it that way.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I liked because I remembered being like, 4 or 5 watching that movie and thinking that what a kind person. I wanted to know this man because he reminded me a lot of like my grandparents and like my teachers, people that I understood and trusted.
It's like with a lot of
I
these,
cared for so much.
a lot of this past whitewashing and people more or less trying to distance us away from important images of racist stereotypes, the more we forget about the positive aspects of those characters independent of their race, or the forwarding of negative racial stereotypes is more of like, take for example Gollywog, the original, I guess you'd say, racist caricature. I mean, Sri Lankan child, basically drawn in blackface, but very industrious, very resilient, has a strong, has a good head on his shoulders. Not,
Yes. See,
or
that's the
maybe
kind
that
of
was
thing.
Little Boy Sambo. I'm thinking of Little Boy Sambo, aren't I?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why,
But
why do all the movies that come from Disney and stuff have to be so heavily laden with
messages.
political sensitivity and messages and stuff like that? Because what happened to just a good story with some good actors who knew what they were doing?
Because
It's this-
those good
the best
stories
way-
and those good actors come from stories that need to be told, essentially stories that illustrate some part of the human condition. In this sense, they're kind of juxtaposing that human condition as it is with more like human condition as they believe it should be, and that becomes thought leadership.
How much whitewashing can we actually handle? Like, say, for example, Song of the South.
I mean,
Whitewashing, can we do to that?
technically speaking,
Totally
none of it.
acceptable.
We shouldn't whitewash the past. We shouldn't, discourage discussion of negative or problematic, to use the SJW term, aspects of society just because they make you feel a bit uncomfortable. Good. You should be.
It's
If
it's
we can
writing
discuss
by
these things
committee
and be
now.
a bit uncomfortable together, and maybe
Sometimes I
not.
think it's writing by dartboard too, where it's just a bunch of words on a big dartboard, and they throw the
Yeah.
Oh,
darts
no,
and
no, this
then
is not a
rearrange it and say,
dartboard.
okay,
This is not a dartboard. This
But
is
it's
Kathleen
definitely
Kennedy's
a committee.
micromanagement, is what it is.
Hart Fisher described it best as writing by committee, because you have the new Avengers
Then
movie.
explain Last
or
Jedi.
the
That was
Power
one guy. Explain that.
SJI.
The
What?
Last
Right.
Jedi. That was Ryan Johnson. That was all Ryan
No,
Johnson.
no, okay. Ryan Johnson, has to receive a bunch of input from producers like Kathleen Kennedy, who's under pressure from
Oh,
focus
yeah.
groups.
Yeah, but at that point, it doesn't become writing by committee. That would be like saying editorial decisions are writing by committee. It's not that the problems start finding these franchises and a lot of cult classics. It's the fact that these people are not getting the new income they need to make the shareholders happy. That basically capitalization abhors limits, and it abhors decline. And you have people like Games Workshop pretty much issuing out their licenses willy-nilly. Wizards of the Coast has gone full SJW because Hasbro wants their whole family. Well, Wizards of the Coast, not Games Workshop. That's a UK
That's different,
independent
yeah.
thing. But it's essentially these media conglomerates pulling rank. Like, remember the Roseanne debacle? It wasn't ABC that decided, hey, we need to pull.
It was Disney.
It was
It's
Disney
Disney that pulled
leaping
rank.
over.
Yeah.
I mean, back in
Yeah.
the day, if you did that sort of thing, you reached over the table, people would have a serious, change of heart about their continuing business relationship with you, even as a subsidiary. Like, they would essentially just go, okay, we're going to take our shares and we're going to give them to somebody else, and they can buy us out
Well,
because this crap isn't going to fly. But
this is
you
going to
can't
be
do that in the games market, because the games market, especially tabletop, is niche. Like, that's why SJWs are funneling into it, because they haven't saturated that market just yet. At least they don't think they have. And it's so weird because you can point to like the progress that they've made, progress, and they're still not happy. It's like, cool, you want to take everything.
How far do we let them go, though?
You
we
don't
really need
unless you're a
to?
shareholder. Unless you're a shareholder, you don't really have a say in the matter. Like, even if you're a paying customer and you buy your cardboard crack every week, basically the Games Workshop is your methadone clinic for buying a new round of, I don't know, Sororitas Astartes figurines or something.
A new Vorpal bunny that, has 5/4 mana cost or something like that.
Oh, yeah, I know the card you're talking about.
Hmm.
That card. But the more important thing is that, I mean, these are works of fiction, these are creative expression, and it kind of loops back to the cake thing.
Yeah.
Is that when you have creative license and you have corporate creative license, the rules get a lot different. Rather than you
Yes.
being a mom and pop and defending your right to personal speech, you're essentially saying this corporation has a right to business. How do we tailor our speech to continue business? And that's okay. If they want to go full SJW, I can sit back and not buy their products.
Isn't it ironic that, if you go to a place like King Stoopers and you go to their bakery and you say, hey, I want you to bake me a cake, but I want you to put it on their 1488 Race War Now. Are they going to do it? No, they're probably going to look at you and
people
go,
have refused that request on numerous times, and oddly enough, those complaints often become the focus of investigations.
Take into account the case of the family who wanted to celebrate the kid's graduation. They went to the Publix. They went to Publix and they wanted a cake that said summa cum laude, which is Latin for top of your class. And the bakery, Publix, the website that they submitted the cake order through, rejected the order. So they ended up with a cake that said summa blank 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 laude, which makes no sense in Latin.
Yeah, it's like you're missing a function word there.
Yeah.
It's like you know what it's supposed to be, but the brain has this really weird thing where there are certain words, function words, like nouns can change, adjectives can change, and people can infer context. But things like articles and prepositions can't change. Like your brain, if you blank out one preposition or one article, it just makes your brain throw a fuck. It just says, "Oh, my brain is full of fuck. What is this illegal operation? Abort."
But would Publix's website allow a cake, a hypothetical 1488 cake, for instance?
Oh no. That article is old
if you
meme.
want something specific on your cake, like the summa cum laude, you should have gone in person.
Yeah, always go in person.
In person, they understand. It's not a typo. You're not cursing.
Right.
What it is.
Yeah.
Always supposed to order that kind of stuff in person.
I just don't get why people are so focused on convenience and not so much on the quality of the results in that case.
That's been my beef for quite a while now because
but it's kind of like the scene in What's Eating Gilbert Grape where Arnie just keeps eating his birthday cake too early and they don't have enough, time to bake him another cake. So Gilbert has to go to the big store that's driving his little mom and pop, the one that he works at, out of business. And it is a convenience factor to, be able to say, hey, I need a cake and, I don't have a whole lot of time. They usually have pre-made cakes ready to go for that kind of thing.
That's perfectly fine.
Yeah. I love cake. I don't know who doesn't love cake. But we've covered.
I just had something come across the wire.
Really?
Special counsel accuses ex-Trump campaign chair Paul Manafort of witness tampering in ongoing criminal case. Asked judge to consider revoking release, which is kind of odd considering that I've been following this story and the complaint from the bench was not in relation to witness tampering. It was in relation to the fact that he had not established a cause for remedy or a cause for action in his initial complaint. He just went, I think I definitely kind of maybe know about this one thing, And I could almost put this to an affidavit if I could get this one witness to cooperate.
You got that link, and we'll put it in the show prep links, and I'll get it over to the YouTube. Or actually, you could put it on the YouTube, probably.
Let me just pull the first thing I can.
All right. Because that's something. If Paul Manafort's been intimidating witnesses, then they're gonna keep him in prison.
Okay.
Or they're gonna keep him in jail or custody or whatever.
I'm just gonna go with CBS News here. And I honestly did not anticipate covering that, but I figure I might as well because it's of public interest.
Hey, it's
someone else already.
Breaking news.
Yeah, this is from the CBS AP Wire, so I don't think there's not a name attached to it.
It's fine. AP Wire's credit enough on.
So we're looking at United States District Court for the District of Columbia, United States of America versus Paul J. Manafort.
Do you want me to read it out? I'll go ahead.
I was just going to go over because they got the docket here. Government's motion to revoke or revise defendant Paul J. Manafort Jr.'s current order of pre-trial release. So it looks like they're pursuant 18 U.S. Code subsection 3148. Let's see if I can pull that up.
I'll go ahead and read out this article from CBS News. Former Trump campaign chairman Paul several attempts to tamper with witnesses in his ongoing criminal cases, prosecutors said Monday. They have also asked a federal judge to consider revoking his house arrest. In a court filing, prosecutors working for special counsel Robert Mueller wrote that Manafort and one of his associates repeatedly contacted two witnesses in an effort to influence their testimony. The contacts occurred earlier this year, shortly after a grand jury returned a new indictment against Manafort and while he was confined to his home. Manafort's obstructive conduct instills little confidence that restrictions short of detention will assure Manafort's compliance with the court's orders and prevent him from committing further crimes, the filing states. Court documents do not name Manafort's associates or the witnesses. Prosecutors say the witnesses worked with Manafort in...
Wait. Hold on. I gotta look through this then.
Yeah,
because I'm seeing a whole bunch of things. It's Special Agent Doman.
Are you looking at the
I'm looking at the
PDF
actual
itself?
Yeah, the actual document.
Yeah.
Was released to home confinement subjects. Okay. Yeah.
I'll continue. Court documents do not name Manafort's associate witness. Prosecutors say the witnesses worked with Manafort in organizing a group of former European officials known as the Habsburg Group, who promoted Ukrainian interests in Europe as well as the U.S. According to the court filing, Manafort began messaging and calling one of the witnesses in February, shortly after a federal grand jury in Washington returned a superseding indictment against him that included allegations of unregistered lobbying related to the Habsburg. Manafort messaged and called one of the witnesses the day after his co-defendant and business partner Rick Gates pleaded guilty and continued reaching out over the next several days, according to a sworn affidavit filed by an FBI agent in the case. In one call, the agent wrote, Manafort said he wanted to give the person a, quote, heads up about Habsburg, end quote. The individual then hung up because he was concerned about the outreach, according to the affidavit. On February 26, Manafort sent the person a series of messages through an encrypted application, including a link to a Business Insider story with the headline, Former European Leaders Struggle to Explain Themselves After Mueller Claims Paul Manafort Paid Them to Lobby for Ukraine, end quote. Another message said, quote, we should talk. I have made clear that they worked in Europe, end quote. The person told investigators that he Manafort's effort to reach him as a way to influence his potential statements. And the person believed that from his experience that the Habsburg lobbied in the United States and knew that Manafort knew as well, the agent wrote. Manafort faces several felony charges in 2 federal cases. He has pleaded not guilty. A CBS News request for comment from a Manafort spokesperson wasn't immediately returned. Okay, so why is he trying to, contact people if he's not supposed to be doing this?
Okay, so it's
good question.
anonymizing as Defendant 1 and Defendant 2.
Don't forget,
that's good enough for legal
Rick
documents.
Pitino was coach number that.
Yeah. I'm looking at this, and it's a lot of assertion by these defendant or these affidants, I should say. But it doesn't look to me like there is a Reform Act of 1984, blah 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 blah. Yeah, that's the exact same thing he uses. I'm gonna be honest here. This is dog shit. This is legalese dog shit. It's just there's a lot of assertion, and then it goes into the matters of law without substantiating the facts. Like if there were something to point to the original document, anything like that, this is not good.
Well,
This is a fucking fishing expedition. Mueller knows it. I mean, as much as whatever case he has every right to pursue his legal strategy. That's protected. I'm not going to disparage him on that. I'm going to give him some knocks on the fact that this thing does not include anything that would be related to the original docket or any extra evidence, which I'm pretty sure you can't submit with these replies. Yeah, this is a reply, so he wouldn't have been able to submit any new evidence. He would have had to look at the current evidence, which means that some of the obfuscation here might be due to other records. Like they're already these terms are already addressed in another record or already defined in another record relating to the case.
Well, I've got one final wild card topic here in a moment. I'm gonna go ahead and continue about the.
I think we're done for the night.
Oh, we're done? Yeah, I think this probably. I'll save this next story for tomorrow. That'll be a good teaser.
Okay.
So, okay. I'd like to thank Silver Twins Jones for joining us tonight on Rain Delay Radio, and I'd also like to send get well wishes out. Good friend Slander Bob, and get well soon. We missed you. And to all of our listeners, you can find us at Rain Delay Radio / I'm sorry, not. You can find us at streamlabs.com / Rain Delay Radio. And you can support our stream there. We love to read your super chats and freak eating for subscribing to our channel. And it's good that he's on board with us, and thank you Natter, for that. We'd love to have you come to Pueblo, so we'll eat a massive pizza together. So I've been your co-host Randolph. You can find me on Twitter at GovRocknar.
And I have been your host at D4Bard on Twitter.
And on behalf of all of our listeners, thank you and good night. Thank you for listening to Rain Delay Radio, and we'll see you soon.